I'm John Kinzer, and we are starting our session 6, the principle of unity and union. I want to welcome you to this series, and today you're looking at a picture now of two people walking, and they are together. They are walking beside each other, and I'd like to talk about that agreement that takes place. Let's take a look at Amos chapter 3, verse 3. And you'll see your Bible will read, "Can two walk together unless they be agreed?" So it's a question. And Amos asks this question, and I think it has the purpose of us saying, yes, two cannot walk together unless they're agreed. You can never walk together with another person unless you're agreed. So that agreement in the heart is unity. So unity is an internal quality. It's something that's in the heart. And you want to understand and even stress that with students, that there's internal qualities, internal traits, and there's external traits. So unity is agreement that two people have, that when they join together, they have this in their heart. It's an internal quality. Now, union is much different. The union is external. You can see the union. You can't see unity. You don't see agreement. That's something they have in their mind, in their heart. But a union, you can see. It's external. And in Webster's dictionary, Noah Webster defines a union as a form or arrangement of parts for people who have unity. So it's an arrangement. It's a form. So it's something you can see. When we think of a form of people coming together who have unity, we might think of a school. We might think of a church. Those are all people who have agreement, so they form a union. They come together. A business would be another type. A club, a sports team. So you have many, many different kinds of unions. And of course, the hardest one to manage, the hardest one to keep your agreement is marriage. Marriage is a union. And when we think about that, marriage requires a huge amount of unity. You have to talk about and plan and understand and agree together on so many different levels. So marriage is a form of union. Agreement in the heart must be reached, or that union will not succeed. You can start a business with another person, and if the two of you can't agree on what you do, on your tasks, on your labor, your business will fall apart. You can start a church, and if people have different ideas of the beliefs and the values, your church will divide. So internal unity is so important. Now, a positive example of unity in the Bible is what we read about in the church. We see over and over that the church agrees to pray together, to have fellowship, to meet together, to evangelize, to go about, to live and serve one another. In fact, we read over and over, they came together in one accord. See, there's an example. They came together in one accord. They agreed. So accord is agreement. It's unity. Paul tells us, keep the unity in the bonds of peace. Paul. So it's something we have to keep. We have to guard our unity. We have to work at it. We have to hold to it. We have to be cautious. Now, a negative example of unity would be the Tower of Babel, where you have people coming together, having one language, one purpose, to build this ungodly tower. And what happens? Well, God steps in and he scatters them. He hinders the development from that tower. We never see what would have happened had that tower gone up. God steps in, confuses their language, and they scatter over the globe. Now, union, which you can understand because unity is internal, it's in the heart. You hold that with your purposes, your beliefs, your values, your attitudes. Those are all things that are inside that build unity. A union, of course, is external. We mentioned it could be a club, it could be a friendship, it could be a marriage, it could be a labor union, it could be a business. There's so many. We could think of hundreds of different forms of a union. But when everything is in agreement, the stronger the union becomes. A marriage, if you can work on all those internal qualities, decisions that you make with the children, with where you go, where you attend church, where you work, where you live, what you do for recreation, what books you read, the stronger the unity, the stronger the marriage. Now, sometimes a war or sometimes a big event will build unity among a people. In American history, the 13 colonies were 13 individual colonies, spread, scattered. They did not interact very much. Trade was pretty small in those days. There were no highways, there were no railroads, there were no easy ways to communicate, no television, no cell phones. It was very hard, no internet. It was very hard to communicate. So these 13 colonies were brought together into a strong union with two major events that happened in the 1700s. The first one was a war, the French and Indian War. The French and Indian War was a war between Britain and France, and France had allies in America, the various Indian tribes. And so these allies fought with the French against the British. Now, the Americans were British colonies, so the Americans fought with the British. They followed the same commander. In fact, one of the great individuals that we'll be studying later, George Washington, comes out as a hero in the French and Indian War. He's a commander at that time. And so people in the colonies were unified. They were fighting a common foe. The second big event was the Great Awakening. And sometimes events take a long time to unfold. The Great Awakening, for instance, starts in 1720, and it goes all the way to about 1770. It was 50 years of revival, 50 years of preachers who went through the different colonies, who freely traveled, spoke daily. George Whitefield, Jonathan Edwards, others preached. The gospel went forward, and it built a unity, it built an agreement among all 13 colonies. So you see a union was coming soon. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence from Great Britain comes, and these two events have built a stronger unity. So remember this one thing: the more things that you can agree on, the unity that you have with another, the stronger and more effective the union will be. God bless you as you study.